Now, welcome to my home. I've been trying to find you for a while. You see, I decided to pick up game dev. And well, I don't have many friends. So you're the lucky son of a gun that's going to sit here and listen to me talk. Isn't that exciting? Oh, and if you finish listening, I'll give you some food I found behind a dumpster. I think it's a pizza. I'm not really sure. All of this started back when I was terrorizing the fish in my local lake, when all of a sudden, I got the great idea to make a game. I've always wanted to be a game dev, and I've dabbled a little bit in it before, but I decided, you know what, I'm tired of terrorizing fish, it's time to do something productive. The base idea for the game is to take duck game and rounds and mash it together into one game. The plan was to start development after I was all done with my work week, giving myself 3 days to make a prototype for the game and force my friends to play it. When I started going to work, I started to feel sick, like my being felt sick. Like really sick, like flu sick. I thought at first I'd be fine, but as it turns out, I was not. I could barely stand and couldn't even get any sleep in. I was able to get 1 day off by letting someone else kick my rocks for me, but I ended up working that next day because I don't let any nasty flu stop me, and it had nothing to do with the fact I had little sick time left and we live in a society. That was when my game development began. When my corporeal form became deathly sick and I kept drinking tea just hoping I would feel better, I started to find some tutorials on how to make a 2D platformer and followed those so I could, make a 2D platformer. After the player was made and able to move around, I decided I was going to dynamically add in players where it would automatically detect the controller, and depending on how many controllers, it would spawn that many players, and also automatically assign each controller to that player. As it turns out, that is a lot harder to do than my pea-sized brain can figure out. So after a few hours of fiddling around and trying to figure out how to do it, I ended up just giving in. I decided I would just create 4 different players and assign it manually in the code that, hey, if this player's on this field, use this controller. And anytime I needed to change the code of the players, I would just copy it from the player I was editing and paste it in all the other ones. Finally, I decided to call it a day. After getting the player made, shooting mechanics needed to be added, and this turned out to be much, much harder than it had to be. I ended up delving to tutorial hell because, as it turns out, I don't have enough brain cells to activate higher brain functions. I also had the best idea to add the funny Atari Sam voice that the game Faith has recently used, so I found a plugin that let me use Sam, and after messaging the creator because I couldn't figure out how to get it to work, I decided I would get back to figuring out how to get bullets to work. You can actually already spot me losing my mind right here.
Now, because I'm having it shoot towards the mouse, if I could make one position mine and crashes. Now let's go ahead and try this. And it crashes. Okay. Make sure you actually go down. So node 2D / mouse position 2D. So now that we have the new position set up with spawn, let's go ahead and try that again. And it shoots towards the mouse.
Oh, look at you! You get the
Next time I'm
bullet
going to
working.
cover how I cause the bullet to split in my current game I'm making.
So Google search after YouTube search after Google search, I found a handful of videos slowly helping me learn and teach me how to program bullets, and after a few failed attempts, I felt myself getting more and more tired and figured I had done enough for the day and decided to hit the hay. I was making slow but steady progress when I had a genius idea. The thought of it being cool if a player could shoot upwards as well as left and right popped into my noggin, and that sounded like a fun idea and had to be easy to implement. Right? Right? After spending way too much time trying to get that to work, I ended up going back to just having it shoot left or right. Oh, and at some point I was able to get Sam working, but I'm not really sure when, and decided to add some more voice lines.
Father, why do you give us sections? I cannot escape. Father, why do you give us sections? Help. Move. Help.
It's perfect.
Eventually I figured out bullets. I needed to spawn a 2D character and hurtle it through the air.
Yeah, baby! Oh my god. Finally. Yeah! It only took rewriting half my code and taking from this lovely gentleman. Rapid Vectors, thank you so much. Dear God, your tutorial was so helpful. Godot 4 is a lot of growing pains. Worse if you don't even know what you're doing, and half the documentation is about the older version, but we won't get into that. I got it to work. Mostly, as long as you're moving. I can figure out a way to store the last direction. Alright.
And yes, I do know that the bullets stand still when you do so, but don't worry, it's definitely a feature. After finally getting the bullets to work, I realized I was way too tired to keep moving forward, so I decided to call it a day and suplex the hay. Since I got shooting working, I tried to figure out how to make it so that the player would be holding the gun that the bullet would come out of. You know, so the bullet had some sense. When I figured out how to add the gun, I noticed that the bullet would appear on top of the gun, and I needed it to seem like it was coming from the gun. It only took a precious 30 minutes to get the bullet behind the gun. After that, I spent the rest of my time trying to add in sound effects and making it so every time the player turned around, the gun would flip alongside them. And before I knew it, it was time to go to bed. After they all came over, the laptop was open, game pulled open. I connected the 4 controllers and then discovered that 2 of them didn't work because, of course, they didn't. I showed them the glory of my creation, and they all thought it was pretty neat. Not because it was well made and had beautiful graphics or even had a functioning game, really, but because it was funny how broken it was. They actually liked the fact that the bullets didn't move when when you don't move left or right. So I'm thinking of adding that as an ability later on. Most of the feedback I got was just, this is an unfinished game, and well, they're not wrong. It definitely needs a lot of rework, and now that I figured out what I was actually doing, I'm gonna go back in and probably rewrite most of this code because it's barely usable and pretty broken. I'll Frankenstein monsters it together. One might look at what I created and say it's garbage, and they'd be correct. But it's my garbage, and I will sculpt it into a pulsating masterpiece of unbelievable beauty. I plan on scrapping most of it, like I said, and probably making it more of a peer-to-peer game online, because local co-op isn't very, well, people don't really do it as often. I'll probably keep it in somewhere, but for the moment, I'm definitely going to focus on making it online. The thought is I'll slowly recode the game to have a lot of it more separate moving parts that interact with each other. Like, I want to make it so you can throw the gun at your enemy and make them drop it so you can pick it up. And I also don't think I want to add too many different kinds of guns, but a lot more abilities, like further gun range, not further gun range, like thrusters, bombs, or when you fire your bullet, it stands still until you move, kind of like Super Hot. Figuring out how to do the scoring is going to be the weirdest, but for the moment, that's not a problem for current me. That's just a problem for future me. Well, you're all done listening, although I kind of already ate the thing I thought was a pizza earlier, so I'll go ahead and just drop you off. You were here, right? Yeah. Anyways, I'll probably see you later. Bye.